etc.
Okay,
Let's check I'm recording now. So I think I'm recording. Okay, good morning, Katie.
Morning.
Morning, guys. So this is the 5th edition of Desertification on Discs, and I'm delighted today to be joined by Kate Legett, who, amongst other things, is a sustainability cheerleader at Innocent. So good morning, Katie. We've got to start there, clearly, haven't we? So first of all, yeah, well, let's not start there. Let's ask how you are. You all right?
Yeah, I'm good actually, though I would say the announcement that London is going into tier 2 has been a little bit of a COVID related blow this week, but other than that, can't complain, feeling happy, feeling healthy.
Good. So you're in London, are you? You're London based.
I am, yeah. Not quite the London that's behind you, thank goodness.
I know.
At the moment.
I know that we've got time to prevent this, so that's what we'll talk about today. But look, great to join us. Thank you for your time, Katie. And obviously, Katie works with some Innocent and a massive leading brand in this whole kind of area. So it'll be fascinating to kind of get your perspective on things. But I'm not really here to talk too much about Innocent. I'm here to talk about you and talk about why you're into sustainability and what your view of sustainability is. Naturally, that's going to cross into why you're doing what you're doing and the purpose you have. But we're just really keen to understand how you got to where you are now and what the decision making was and what sustainability means to you. So maybe we can do that instead of kind of going straight into the Innocent bit. Let's talk about how you got to Innocent. And I've had a good read through your background CV and where you started, and quite similar to myself. I studied environmental technology at university. But what were you already thinking sustainability or environment before you chose your degree? How did you get to it?
So it's quite funny actually. So before I went to university, I have this really clear memory, which my parents hate me reminding them that this is what they said to me. I came in home one day at the kind of UCAS time, where you're writing your personal statements, and I said, I want to be a wedding planner. And my parents were like, but what difference is that going to make? And that I was like, okay, okay, so I should probably do something else. The environment sounds like a good option. I'd done geography A level.
Geography.
Yeah, I thought, I could probably do something to do with the environment. And even when I first started my degree, so I did my undergrad degree in environmental economics. When I first started that degree, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I just remember I wrote this essay about how businesses were in a really unique position to be able to do something different. That they're not governments, but they've got resources and money. And I felt like I wanted to be part of a business that could change the way that the world worked by offering. Is that a small dog?
It's a puppy. I apologise.
Oh my goodness, what kind of puppy is it?
Do you want to have a look? Sorry.
Yeah, I think
I was
so.
really enjoying that. I'll get it. Hang on, because this is a bit of live. This is Ray.
Oh look!
So you can't be mad at me, listeners.
No, I think I was going to say whoever's watching is happy for this. Oh.
Yeah. So she's Ray, named after Ray from Star Wars, because my daughter's a big Star Wars fan.
How old is she? She looks little.
She's 10 weeks. So
wow, really little.
Yeah, really little. Probably irresponsible to, with everything going on in the world, to have a little puppy, but hey, she's so cute.
Oh. And also, I just think that they bring you joy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's sustainable. We'll all be better at saving the world if we're joyful, I think.
Absolutely. So she'll stay on my lap now and we'll talk. She'll be fine.
Okay,
so
great. She was just asking for some attention, that's all.
She was. So yeah,
really the whole catalyst for it was that my parents made a really passing comment that being a wedding planner wouldn't leave a positive footprint, essentially. That's not exactly what they said, but in my mind that's not what they said. And then I just thought business felt like a good place to be. It felt like a place where you can offer consumers this idealistic version of what I thought was possible was, how about we offer consumers products that are the same or better, but that are good for the planet and the people that work for the supply chains and the businesses that create them. Of course, I wouldn't claim for a minute that there are many businesses out there that are doing that very, very idealistic view of the world yet. But I do think that if you can offer that to consumers, the same or a better product for the same standards or better standards, or sorry, not even the same standards, better standards from a social and environmental perspective, then that's what we should be aiming for.
Do you think
And so,
do you think you always had like an ethical consumer tendency, with like in the past, or not, before you learned about it?
no, honestly, I don't think I did. And I think the thing is about being in this space, I'm sure that lots of people listening would feel the same. The more you learn, the more you feel that you need to do. And I think that can be both a blessing and a curse, because it feels like, oh my goodness, I know all of the issues. Like even you just said it, I don't know if I should have a puppy, because that's probably, in this, in the context that we're talking, should I? And there are so many big decisions that we make every day. It can feel a little overwhelming. I think I definitely wouldn't say that I wouldn't claim to have been a particularly ethical consumer. I've only just switched to reusable cotton pads to remove my makeup, which is a really big thing for me, and I'm actually really pleased with myself, hence why I've just mentioned it. And
Congratulations.
it's as good as it's as good, if not better, in fact, which is the whole point, right? Offer a product that's as good or better. And I would say it's actually maybe even better.
So okay, so then once you, when did it kind of click for you then that this sustainability thing is the right way for businesses to operate?
I think, to be honest, so I did my undergrad, which wasn't really about business at all. I mean, there were a couple of things about it, but mostly it was environmental management and the economic side. So, and then it was when I did my master's in environmental technology, in fact, that I studied specifically, I was looking at businesses. And I think during that process, and also just being around lots of other people who could kind of debate the same things and say what they felt the right way for businesses to operate were, and kind of almost put to rights how the world currently worked, in still being kind of in the academic sphere, but also moving towards the reality of business. That was a really interesting time for me, because I was, surrounded by people that were super passionate about the things that I was passionate about. And I'd say for the first time, it was, you could really start having some of those debates and say, oh, well, it's interesting because we're not all vegetarian, but should we be? And it's those kind of debates that you start having. And now I would say I'm the really not so fun person at parties that's always talking to people about their recycling. I don't know why. It just always comes up, especially when you work for a company like Innocent. It always comes up. People are like, oh, plastic, tell me about that. I'm like, I don't want to talk about plastic at a party, but I will, but I don't want
to. So have you gone the vegan vegetarian way yourself?
That is a really good question. So I would say I was a vegetarian for 5 years. I started whilst I was actually living in Geneva. I worked for a very short period of time for the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. And I was living out in Geneva, and I just thought I was living on my own, and I was like, for the first time ever, I can just do whatever I want. So I became a vegetarian whilst I was out there. And I was probably a vegetarian for about 5 years. And then I would just say now I'm a flexitarian. I try really hard. I just find it really difficult. And I know that is not a very good excuse. And I really would love to try being vegan. The one thing I really could not do is have vegan milk in my tea. It's just not the same. I'd say the main source of milk I have is in my cup of tea. That's it.
That was designed for cow, wasn't it? Let's face it.
Yeah, I think so.
I know it's a tough one, and I'm not I'm not. I probably like you. I'm a lot more conscious about what I eat now. I eat a lot less red meat, but I eat very high quality red meat when I do. But I'm, my kind of genetics are all farmers, livestock, and I think I find it very difficult to think that's a bad thing. The livelihood it brings people, and when it's done really well and it serves a local community. I think it's very easy to go a blanket that can't be sustainable, or that a vegan alternative is automatically better. Because I think there's complex supply chains to analyze in all these cases, as well as health and well-being. So it's not a simple answer. I think if we can lab grow meats, and use renewable energy in the energy production process, great. But I think we've got a way to go on that for that to be sustainable still. So it's but it's good that we're talking about this stuff, because I think when I, like you, when I first came into this, I loved geography at school. Like I was just inquisitive about that, and it didn't sustainability didn't really come to me until I did my master's in law, I'd say. So rather than the environmental technology degree, it was the environmental law masters where it actually made sense to me, because you find with universities they're quite backwards in their teaching. They're a few years behind often what the world's really teaching, or they were when I was learning. So you didn't really kind of learn about it until a bit later on, but it's great. Yeah, I love it. The fact I'm at dinner parties or at Christmas when relatives ask me about this now. Whereas before it was just too complicated to talk about.
Yeah. But people do want a simple answer though, and that's the problem, because they, they want you to say, hey, what's one step that I can take to be more sustainable? And it's not always as simple as one thing, for sure. And it's like you say, it's not a blanket eat. Well, I mean, eat less meat is an easy blanket statement, but eating no meat, as you say, is not necessarily going to be the catch-all sustainable.
Yeah. Absolutely,
because it depends what you're measuring it on as well, and there's so much in that, because yes, from a carbon perspective, but what about from a land use is a bad example as well, but there's loads of different things, because air miles, it depends what dairy free alternative you're using, because are you bringing it from Californian almonds or exactly, in which case is that better than buying from a dairy farm in Norfolk? Maybe not.
So it might be, you could think about the phase we're in now as the positive is we're asking more questions about it. We're asking for justification, right? That's a good first step. Some things are easier to answer than others, but our thinking's evolving on this area, and I guess that probably link into a lot of what you do now as within Innocent. So tell us about that, how that because obviously people put Innocent on a bit of a pedestal, I think, don't they, from a sustainable brand perspective and what it's done and what it's achieved against a very traditional industry, the Del Monte man, etc. His white coat turning up,
right?
so how's your role evolved, kind of, with that? A company like that.
So it's, my role's actually changed a lot, and so when I joined Innocent 5 years ago, so I've done the majority of my career so far at Innocent, and I joined 5.5 years ago now, and there were, I think, just coming up to 200 of us, and there are now 600 of us. So the company has grown loads since I've been there. So by the nature of that, my role has changed quite a bit. So I set up our third-party supply chain audit program for human rights compliance. We didn't really use an external third-party auditing program when I first started. And then we realized, hey, we actually don't have a policy on human rights. Our sustainability work had always been very environmentally focused, which makes sense. I think that's the case for a lot of organizations started with the environment because it was easier to make the business case for initially. If you think, you save energy, you save money, whereas human rights often that's not the case. The direct correlation isn't as clear. And I think for me, the reason I chose to work at Innocent is because I think very much I had the perception that you said that people have, which is, they do some really cool stuff. They've got this just cool feeling about them as an organization, and I'd say that still is the case. People join Innocent because we've got a great workplace environment, because we have values that really matter, and for me that was really important. I wanted to work at a company where I felt like I related to the values, and actually by doing that, it's because we are growing fast, but by doing that you probably limit, in terms of your personal impact, you limit the amount that you will change, if that makes sense. Like if we say if we reduce Innocent's carbon emissions by half in the global scale of everything, that's still not huge, but it's a balance, right? So for me it was a balance of, I know that the impact, say absolute impact, is maybe slightly smaller, but I just love it. I just love it. I love everything I love the fact that there are values at the business, and there is a purpose, and purpose is something that I really hear thrown around a lot. And I know that some companies struggle with purpose, but at Innocent it just kind of feels like it's just what we do.
Naturally.
so I started on the kind of more supply chain side, and then now, as you pointed out at the beginning, my job title is sustainability cheerleader, which I suppose means that I just make sure that people are thinking and caring about sustainability, both internally, making sure that everyone knows what we're talking about and what our plans are around sustainability and what our targets are and how we're achieving them. And the internal engagement part for me, I think, is really important. And then also, I look after all of our kind of work on reporting externally. I work really closely with our marketing teams, and all of that kind of external communications piece, because it's funny that you say that Innocent has this perception of being quite sustainable and quite ahead of the curve, because we don't actually talk externally that much. And if you ask, we would call them drinkers because we obviously make drinks. So if you ask drinkers what they think about Innocent sustainability plans, or they can't really tell you very much because we don't talk externally that much. So part of what I've been doing for the last year, since I've kind of moved full time into this area of the business, is trying to work out how we say it without coming across like we're just saying it and greenwashing, because nobody wants to greenwash. So yeah, that is overall what I do.
How's your as the drivers from external kind of stakeholders around reporting? How have you seen that over kind of recent times? Big change?
So we don't really do it because of external drivers, to be honest. Actually, we would sporadically have people get in touch and say, hey, have you got a sustainability report? To be honest, mostly academics wanted to know if we had one. But from a kind of reporting perspective, no one was saying like, hey, can you report? Other than we became a B Corp a few years ago. And so as a B Corp, we felt that it was really important for us to be reporting better externally, both from a consumer angle to bring people along and to kind of inspire people. And if anyone did want to have a look at our report, I'm not plugging the report, but we did something a bit different to what a normal report is. It's written in the style of a newspaper, and we wanted it to be kind of accessible to whatever level you were coming to it from, and also that we put in little kind of things of like what we think people could do to get involved, things that we want to share with other organizations to kind of help, because it's not just about us. And I think so often we get into this cycle of sustainability reporting where we're detailing all of this stuff that we've done, and really as a sustainability manager at an organization, you're like, yeah, but what can I learn from this? You're not reading it because, I mean, sometimes you're reading it because you just want to know what they've done, but a lot of the time you're reading it because you're like, what can I take and apply to what I do? So I think that for us is a really interesting thing, that we would just like to be able to say, well, if we're doing something good, then why would we not? This is pre-competitive, isn't it?
Yeah,
I hope.
Absolutely. So
at least from our space in the organization, it's pre-competitive.
So you haven't had like the CFO or the FD go, we've got to do something about this ESG stuff. Loads of people are talking about it, and so that's not, the ESG thing's not on the radar.
Well, no, it came from the sustainability team, the report, and we actually view it more as we call it a good all-round report internally. So it's kind of, we report on what we've been doing about the nutrition of our drinks. We put some stuff about finances in there. We talk about charitable giving, as most sustainability reports do, but we also talk about what we do for our people. So it's quite a holistic, it's more of a kind of B Corp report, I suppose, or a kind of impact report. But I also don't really like to put it in that kind of bracket because I just think it sounds boring, whereas actually I think ours is quite good. I mean, I did write most of it, but
I think we do quite a lot of work around the other way, the ESG shareholder driver, and generally, and with no disrespect to people we work with at all, because some are incredibly purposeful, but often it's because there isn't that purpose at the start that's specifically linked to sustainability or or a kind of responsible way of business. Now, it doesn't mean that they're not. It's just, it's not. We're an accounting firm, or we're this. This is what we do. Whereas a lot of the kind of frameworks, standards now are starting to look around, help or getting companies to think about their purpose, and that map of people, planet, etc. Prosperity, sustainability, and I think if you start from that point, like Innocent did, of thinking that way, it's the same with us. We're a tech company, but we're a sustainability tech company, and it's about that. We don't do it to make tech for the sake of tech, right?
Yeah.
So it becomes quite easy for us, but for others where it's a bit more traditional, I think that's probably a challenge to think that way still.
Yeah, and I think it really depends on both the leadership of your organization. It plays a really big part, but you're right, it's kind of a legacy piece as well. You know, we're only 21 years old as a company, so we were set up in 1999. We don't have the same kind of legacy or history of operating in a certain way, because the founders kind of set it up that how we talk externally is how we talk internally. You know, there are all these kind of little, and we were kind of set up with those values just because those were the values that the founders believed in.
Absolutely.
So it's a bit, it is, I would admit, it is easier to be able to do that in an organization that already has it when you arrive, which Innocent did when I arrived. So yeah.
And you're enjoying life, enjoying the role.
I love it. And I also think that you can't underestimate a place that kind of allows you to find what works for you and then move into that, because I really loved all of the work that I did kind of helping Innocent to set up our audit program and our supply chain work and the human rights program. But I just love talking to people about sustainability. And which is so funny, because if, again, as we said, when we started our conversation, if I'd have said this to people who I lived with in my first year of uni, who are still good friends of mine, they would have been like, you're never going to do that, are you, really? And so it's funny because, yeah, but I love it. And I think for me, I get a lot of career kind of satisfaction from the small changes as well. You know, when someone comes to us and says, okay, because we quite often do programs with the Do Nation. I don't know if you've come across them.
No.
They're a great B Corp startup who do kind of climate action programs. So they get people to pledge to take small actions to reduce their personal carbon footprint. And the thing that I get great kind of career satisfaction from is when people come up to me, you know, if I pass them on the stairs, not that I pass them on the stairs at the moment, but if I were to pass them on the stairs in a previous life, and they say, "Oh, Katie, my family and I have become vegetarian because we did that program and we realized that we wanted to do something to help the environment." And that, for me, that's like someone's changed their lifestyle because of something that this company has made them feel is important. And I think that, as I said, I think the internal engagement piece, I mean, is really important, because organizations are really only made up of the people that work for them. So if you took all the people out of it, no one's there, the business doesn't run. And so if you want to have a really sustainable organization, or an organization that really genuinely has that as part of its purpose, well, of course you would start with getting the people individually to care. And I know that feels like, especially when you look at organizations that are tens of thousands of people, it's very well for me to say that when there are 600 of us, and that's bigger than it was when I started. But I think that is the place that we should be starting, because when you get people on a personal level, it kind of spills into everything that they do.
I absolutely kind of agree with you wholeheartedly on this one. I think it's so obvious to us. I think that the employee engagement behavior change piece is ultimately the sustainability piece, because you can go so far with changing your supply chain, procuring the right technologies, doing those areas, but to the real big difference, the prevention, the improvement, all those things are from people. And now I think the challenge therefore is for someone like Innocent, the people that are probably joining you already have some kind of interest in this. Maybe not all, but maybe is something that's driving them towards that, like with that, like we said with you at the start. But how do you make that difference in a bigger, more traditional company? Where would you start from? Is it a combination of, so I guess, this doomsday projection, or is it, no, we can save the world, it's going to be fine, or is it both? What's the trick to this, do you think?
Well, I think it has to be both, because I don't think that you can be positive without bringing a little bit of doom and gloom in the first place, because otherwise, well, if it's all positive, then no one needs to care about it, do they, surely? Or you give people a kind of false hope that, don't worry, the sustainability team, we've got this.
Got
and
it
obviously
covered.
then that's not going to help, is it? I would say, so one thing that we do at Innocent that I found that has really helped is we have roles on everyone's objectives that are around doing good stuff. So we call them our kind of good all round roles that are specifically that we they're kind of bannered into 4 different areas, and then what we ask is that teams across the business and individuals across the business come up with an objective that is related to either sustainability or another area of our kind of good all round work, and that they would put a objective themselves because they obviously know their role and what they do, and there are kind of 4 different ones of them. So and the idea being from those that what we were trying to do was say, we've told you what our plan is from a sustainability perspective. We can't do it without everyone being on board with it, and now it's on your objectives, so it's kind of over to you. What do you think you have capacity to do within your role? What do you think that you can deliver? And also, what do you want to do? Because I think, I mean, just from a behavioral change perspective, you're always going to get the best out of people when they have input their own thoughts and input into it. And for me, that's probably one of the things that I think has changed things the most since I've worked at Innocent in terms of internal engagement, is those having those roles and really encouraging people that this is your work as well. So I'd say that's quite important, but that obviously in itself isn't enough because that's just a tick box. But I think if there were lots of people that didn't care about, say for example, we're in a massive organization and people do not care, and that's our kind of baseline starting point, that works because it's about them and it's about their achievement. And then you layer on that interesting speaker series and some doomsday stuff. If you don't do this, then let's think about our children and our children's children, and then you layer on top of that but don't worry because we've got a plan and there's lots of stuff that we can do, and it's kind of a layered effect of different things. But I think a good baseline is let's get it into people's objectives so that they own it as well.
Absolutely. I think you're right, it's got to be the combo, and it's kind of why we do this. It's slightly tongue-in-cheek, obviously, the whole desertification island thing, but it's also scientific fact, so that's the direction of travel, right? So it's I personally kind of get a bit fed up with too much doomsday. I think it has the opposite effect of turn off. But yeah, I think we're still learning again how to do this right. We'll study at university the psychology of sustainability messaging.
Yeah, I don't think there is a right or wrong way, because I do really think it does depend on your audience, and I do think a lot of people already know the doomsday stuff, so I wouldn't lean into that with some audiences. Like, I wouldn't go to a sustainability place where people knew about sustainability and be like, hey guys, climate change is a problem. Because they're going to be like, well, no, we know. But with people that didn't care or didn't know, sometimes you have to start somewhere. But I do think it's a mixture, because even if you look at, say, a David Attenborough documentary, it's difficult to get that balance between the planet is dying, which is true, and the uplifting part at the end, because some people are like, no, I can't even watch this doom and gloom, it's too much.
Well, speaking about a nice little segue of drama and ups and downs, I think we should go into the playlists now.
Okay,
and talk through that. So you've picked your 7 songs for us. I'm not gonna I'll let you talk through them. I think I don't want to ruin any surprises. So do you want to just talk through them? So the first one's Louis Armstrong.
Yeah, and so this this song just reminds me of my childhood, because my mum loves this song, but it is also a song that as I was thinking about what songs make me think of like being young, I was like, this song. But also I feel like if I'm on this like desertification island,
easy for you to say,
it's just going to make me think, well, maybe we could get back to that, maybe not, but at least it'll make me feel nostalgic for a world that used to be wonderful, and hopefully would be wonderful again once the planet has maybe purged humans. I don't know what the plan is in this 5-year scenario, but You never know. And also, it was actually the first song. So my brother was completely deaf, and we used to sign at home. So this is the first song that I remember signing,
Oh wow.
whilst young. So it just is like, it's just a nostalgic, but also just sign language, and just
Yeah.
felt like one that I would listen to with great kind of reflection on the world that is no
Yeah.
longer wonderful, maybe.
Absolutely. Hopefully there'll be aspects of it that are still wonderful that we can pick out.
Exactly.
And then the next one is into Sir Charles Hubert Parry. So what's
So
that one all about?
So I was a chorister growing up, and this was just my friend, one of my best friends who was a chorister with me, and I loved this song. And people always used to have this song as they were walking down the aisle, and we used to sing at people's weddings a lot, and I just love it. And I just think that if I was in this place where I was just wandering around in the wilderness, I don't know, I just, and this is it's a religious song, and I'm Christian, so I feel like it would just be it would be a good kind of reflective, but also it feels like powerful, and it's cool, and it's just great. I love it. I think it's a good, makes you feel happy about humanity, kind of.
I used to be in the choir at school when I was younger,
Mm.
and my
Do you ever
music
sing
teacher,
this one?
Mr. Barnes. I think we did. Yeah, it's classic,
Probably.
isn't it?
Yeah, it is a classic. It's a
But I
classic.
remember the day I told Mr. Barnes that I didn't want to be in choir anymore. It was
Oh,
honestly, I don't think I
very
was that good either,
disappointing.
but he was just, I gave it everything.
Exactly. And that, to be honest,
That's
that's
all
what a
it
music
was.
teacher wants, I think.
Yeah,
That's what they
just give it. It
want.
doesn't matter if you're in tune. That's secondary.
Yeah,
Give it everything. You'll change your mind about
exactly.
that. But yeah, I was glad. Yeah, I don't think we had it at our wedding, but absolutely, yeah, classic one.
It is.
I had
It
this
is.
on in the car when I took my daughter to school this morning, and she picked out a few, and you could see her head moving in the back a little bit. But the next one is I must have listened to this song about 1,000 times. That's Life by Frank Sinatra.
I couldn't pull together 7 discs and not have Frank Sinatra in there. I love Frank Sinatra so much. There's something about that era. Again, I think it's like I was obviously not alive in Frank Sinatra's era, but there's something like looking back on that era that it really feels, I don't know, I don't know, it's just like the golden,
Glamorous.
yeah, glamorous. And I love it. And
This,
also I thought, That's Life is one of those songs that you can be like, well, the
yeah,
world's collapsed, but
exactly.
it's
Celebi.
okay. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I was watching on Disney Plus actually last night. There's a new show about America's space, like the space program when they first went into space, sent a man into space. A man, obviously, that was the only thing it could have been at the time. Clearly, but it was all in that era, the early '60s and like late '50s, early '60s when they're thinking about it, and it just looks so grand, doesn't it? Everything's so grand, like the cars, these big metal beasts, and everyone's pretty happy with life. Everyone's motivated.
And also I think there's like there was no, it was almost like pre the worry about the environment as well. If
Yeah.
that, so it's in this kind of, it's this kind of era where it felt like people were just, it was post-war, but it was pre any kind of concern about the environment or all
social
of the stuff
well-being,
that we worry
particularly.
about. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that meant that it was a good thing, because it
No,
wasn't.
no.
But when you look back at it, it looks, oh look, they're all so carefree and they're just rolling around in their giant cars. And
I know, absolutely. Like they literally didn't have a clue, did they?
no, nothing.
but
Nothing.
But then that Celebi point links into the next one. That was an awful segue. So Les Miserables, which I confess to have never seen, but it's a pretty epic song. This one, isn't it? So is that just because you love the show, or?
I love the show, and I was quite musical growing up. I have seen this show. So I've seen this show loads of times, but that makes me sound a bit mad. But I have seen this show probably, I'm going to say in excess of 10 times. in different locations. This is like the finale song, Do You Hear the People Sing? And it's like uplifting, but it's kind of angry, but it's, it felt like it would be perfect for a world in which everything is chaos. Because it's set in the French Revolution. It's it is kind of chaotic as a play. It's not the most uplifting play, I would say. But I also saw it the weekend of lockdown, so literally just before we went into lockdown, and I was back in Norfolk with I saw it in the Norwich Theatre, and I saw it with a good friend of mine, and I think even just with her I've seen Les Miserables maybe 4 times, so that's when we go into being and it was just before lockdown, and then so it's kind of the last show that I saw before lockdown as well, so it was kind of in my head. I love it.
Yeah, it's a sustainability anthem potentially as well. Kind of make it our own.
Potentially.
And then the next one is an absolutely incredible pianist, composer, Ludovico Einaudi. I confessed to you before this, I absolutely love him. So where does the love come from? Is that just being musical, or who introduced you to him?
I play the piano, so I learned just whilst when I was a teenager. And this song specifically, I don't know how you pronounce it in Italian, but I'm going to try. Nouveau Bianche. Maybe
I'm going to say it's perfect pronunciation.
Anyway, who knows? I'm apologise to Ludovico that I cannot pronounce it. But it's a song that I used to play at home a lot, and it's one that whenever I go home to see my parents, my mum says, "Oh, will you play that song?" So it's one that I could still sit down and play, and it's probably the only piano piece that I could sit down and play without music. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily a wonderful pianist. It's just I've played it so many times, and it was a song that I loved, and it's just nice. And I think maybe I could find myself a piano and play it.
Well, I think that'd be great. We should do that next time live, because you could sing I Was Glad. You get your mates in to do kind of a group rendition of the Les Miserables, and play some Ludovico. So do you like the I Giorni song? Like that's I love that one. I'm so envious of you being able to play. I love the piano, and I wish I'd learned it. And you kind of think it's too late. I'm too late now, but it's not too late for the kids. No. They can learn, and so I'll help them. But
how old are your kids? Are they at the
5 and 3? 5 and 3. So
I started at age 5, and my mum made a pact with me that I was not allowed to quit until I was 16. I don't know why. I agreed to that at 5, because obviously at 5 you agree to the things that your parents ask you to.
Well, a verbal contract is legally binding in Norfolk, so yeah.
There you go. Exactly. There you go. That's the plan. I think they try that.
Excellent. Okay. And then here's in a different vein completely, a bit of Beyonce, Schooling Life.
So this song just reminds me of being at university, and my friends and I used to listen to this song because there's a line in it that says, "Who needs a degree when you're schooling life?" I just feel like on a place where the world has collapsed, my degree won't be worth very much. Hopefully I can still live life somehow, but it would make me feel uplifted. There were so many. I love Beyonce. I could have chosen so many songs by her, but this one was specifically the one that we used to sing at university. Like, you know what? Never mind if we don't get our degrees. You know, those moments where you think you might fail. Nobody really ever does, but you might. So yeah, that for my university housemates.
Tough time for the kids at university now, isn't it? And
just
graduating, it must be really. You go in. I think there's got to be a way, and I think the question or the comment around purpose and business. I think if you are in this situation of studying and you're probably absolutely great, but the market's not going to help you out at the moment. But think about the purpose. Think about your purpose, because that's what you've got. And if you're looking to stand out in a job interview, you've got to show purpose. That will be the changer, I think, for many people, especially in what we do. So don't just turn up with, I got, first and all 80% and hire me. No, show us why you care about this. And because there's so many people out there that are looking at the moment. Must be awful. And also, just like you said, it was so much fun going to university.
Yeah.
It's a lot less fun now, isn't it?
Yeah,
With all the lockdown stuff.
Can't imagine going into your first year and being in this kind of weird semi-lockdown type situation where you're kind of living with the people that you also do your course with, so you're all in bubbles, and just it must be a really strange time. And as you say, especially a strange time to be a graduate and come into organizations where you are also working from home. Like, because I think we take for granted the fact that, you know, we know what the workplace is like wherever we normally are. But anyone starting a new job at the moment, it must be so hard, because you are genuinely just going to work at the moment, really, to do your job. Whereas, you know, there's so much more to having a job and being part of an organization that whatever that organization is, than just working. And
I think
that's
if you're
kind
trying
of all we do.
if you're trying to innovate, absolutely. I think you got to find ways to help the technology help you innovate in that way. But you're right, the social aspect is such a shame not to have that. We've just got to project and believe we're going to get to that point in the not too distant future. But on a happier note, let's get to finish the big finish with "You Make My Dreams Come True" by Hall & Oates.
Yeah,
an 80s classic.
Yeah, I just love this song. So we every year with my boyfriend's family, we drive out to the Alps to go skiing. Normally we didn't go this year, obviously, because we couldn't, but we have this really long playlist of loads of songs, most of which are from the 80s, if I'm completely honest, and we just always listen to this song, and so it just feels really, and also it's just one of my favorite songs. I just think I would be happy dancing around in this wasteland to this song. I feel like I'm doing a lot of dancing around in this wasteland, where I'm probably going to need to be doing some actual productive stuff, really, aren't I? But
I think you'd be all right. Just have your 7 songs on loop. You'd be fine. Just dance around. There's so many Hall & Oates songs you could have chosen that are exactly like that one as well. Like just very uplifting, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. A little bit of, inject a little bit of 80s fun into the situation.
Absolutely. So we've got our dance tunes, lots of singing, lots of dancing, music, sorry, lots of music and dancing around. And what gadget is going to assist you in this critical time moment?
So I've gone more down the luxury item route, because I would like to bring a solar powered kettle, and that is because I just don't know if I could. I did say to you, I think I could survive without a cup of tea, but it's not a world that I would look forward to. So instead, I also feel like I've talked a lot about a cup of tea during this little interview. But anyway, I very much struggle without it. Also, as I think I mentioned to you already, my mum is a kind of doomsday prepper, not on the same level as some of these people you see in documentaries, but quite doomsday preppery. Yeah. So I just feel as though I'll maybe make my way out to her house in Norfolk. She's got her own, you know, she grows everything there. And I know that she will have stockpiled the tea bags. So as long as I've got the solar powered kettle, I think I'll be all right.
I think, we're in a desertification scenario, and I'm sorry to inform you, but there's still a rule of 6. So, you know, you have to be.
That's okay. There's only my mum there. Maybe I'll, you know.
That's right. You're fine then. Yeah, this is all fine for you. They're all still.
Okay.
Classic. It is a doom day. I think that's very responsible of you to be drinking tea as well. There's lots of other things you could have turned to at this time. So tea's a good thing. Not innocent passion fruit smoothies. God, they're addictive, weren't they?
I mean, I do love a smoothie, don't get me wrong, but I'm considering the fact that the desertification part has happened. I was wondering I probably wouldn't be able to access passion fruit.
Yeah, good point. Unless they were growing plentifully in the, this new balmy Norfolk climate. You never know.
True. I mean, it depends on whether we've gone desertification or if we've somehow become tropical, because that image behind you looks.
Yeah, well, that was
I'm going to be able to grow passion fruit.
Yeah, that was the passion fruit riots of 2025 that caused this. To finish, this one's I've never seen this. You're going to tell me that I've got to watch all 100 seasons of it now, I imagine. Tell us about your box set that you've chosen.
So Also, I do have a question about this. How am I watching a box set? Is there still electricity? Because I
Yeah,
haven't got solar. There's still electricity in my
yeah, of course.
desertification.
There's you know, that's easy to generate electricity now, isn't it?
Okay,
With
perfect.
solar and
Fine.
and wind
There
and
is.
no problem.
Okay, great. I'm happy with that then. Okay, so then my box set. Well, then my kettle doesn't need to be solar
Yeah,
powered.
should have thought it through, shouldn't you?
Normal. I should have.
There's a kettle.
Anyway, there's already a kettle. Never mind. It's too late now. I have bought, if possible, all 16 seasons of Grey's Anatomy, because I think it will keep me busy. I've also seen it, especially the first few seasons. I've seen them loads of times, and I just think, because there are so many seasons, you always forget what happens. So if I'm only allowed one box set, I could comfortably watch it again and again. And they're really long. They're like 23 episodes a season.
I mean,
You've got
that lasts forever.
Yeah, it's really long. And also I feel like if I was looking back on from like a post-apocalyptic world to Grey's Anatomy, you'd be like, wow, look at all of that, hospitals, wow. It would be quite, I don't know, I think it'd be quite interesting social experiment.
It would. Yeah. Okay. I will make a note to watch some Grey's Anatomy and Les Miserables. I think are the two things I'll do from that perspective. Because then otherwise, how could I possibly do my own desertification configuration if I haven't seen those things? I could be missing out, right?
I don't know. I don't know.
So, Katie, thank you so much for your time today. Before we go, we usually just ask a couple of quick kind of we've answered a lot of this, I think, in the narrative around employee engagement, but any top tips you can give people outside of the things we talked about around living more sustainable lives or being more sustainable at business? Any nuggets of pearls of wisdom?
Yeah, I would say from a business perspective, certainly the engagement piece is just the one that I would focus on. That for me feels like the biggest area, especially as technical specialists. We so often come into sustainability as technical specialists and we kind of forget about that. So that for me, I think is a really key one that I think sustainability teams do need to invest in. Some do and a lot do, but I think that we could do more in that space. And on an individual level, I think it's just not getting disheartened by all of the so many things that we could do and just doing one thing at a time, focusing on the one thing that you can do, and also not feeling ashamed by not doing all of it. Because as we said, even just someone asked me if I'm a vegetarian, and I'm like, oh, and it automatically makes you feel awful, and you're not gonna change the world with negativity.
No.
Well, that was very profound, wasn't it?
That's it. Let's just stop there and not talk again. That was perfect. It's a great soundbite. No, great. Absolutely agree. And a big part. So the reason we do this series is about that kind of education engagement piece. Really, it's about a different way to understand some of these things, these topics, these areas that impact us all, and trying to find different mediums to do that through. So the interview that we have today goes onto our Rio platform under the Engage part, which is completely free to access. The playlist will publish on Spotify and Apple Music, which will be available on the newsletter link. And just, I guess, for a final time, thank you so much, Katie, for your time. It's been I've really enjoyed it. It's gone very quickly. So,
no problem at all. Thanks for having me. Also,
pleasure.
I didn't mention this, but it is genuinely my dream to be on Desert Island Discs. So I feel like one step closer.
We're like the gateway to that. So, exactly. We'll make sure they see this. It's my aim to host that program. So maybe, who knows?
Great. I'll see you there.
Who knows? See you there. I always wanted to do it. There you go. I can get us in. Don't worry. I'll sort it.
Hey, can't wait.
Thanks, Katie.
Thanks, care. Dan. Bye.
Bye. Right. That's the cut. So Nick can just cut from that point, because as soon as I press end, the whole thing stops.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, I think so. Let me try this. Hang on.